Right about now.
You fuck soul, bro.
Check it out.
You fuck soul, bro.
You fuck soul, bro. Check it out. You fuck soul, bro.
Hello, welcome to Quackcast 322. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is comedy controller, Mr. Baines.
Hello, comptroller.
Comptroller, you're the clown for this Quackcast. You're wearing clown makeup.
I am.
Scary clown makeup, because you're like our go-to guy for comedy in this Quackcast.
I had this weird thought just the other day, so it was funny that, like you said, let's do the comedy thing. So I've been writing about that for a couple weeks now, several weeks now. It's weird that just the other day I thought, I don't know if I should be doing this. Like I had this sudden vision of like an actual comedian or an actual like professional funny person, you know, going through the internet and reading this and not necessarily saying it was wrong even, or maybe it was, but just saying that like this is lame to like try to dissect and like try to explain like you have no idea what you're talking about, which is possibly true. That's how we'll start this.
This guy has no idea what he's doing. Hack!
And just that the whole endeavor is counterproductive or something, you know, something like that. I don't know. I'm a big fan of comedy, of comedians and comedy writing and stuff. It was just like I was listening to an interview between two comedians, and it suddenly occurred to me like they'd probably read this and just like, laugh at me derisively.
Probably be like, he's letting him know all our secrets.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just the reverse. That they would say this is like hackneyed and just all out wrong. You know?
All right. We'll get into that, but first we have to introduce our featured comic for the week. So, our featured comic was Beard. June Joke featured this one.
Featured comic coming at you.
Joke's feature this week was The Beard. The Beard follows Koi and his friend Janky as they meander through their misanthropic existence. In Chapter 1, Koi starts a new job promoting an eco-charity in the streets, which furthers his dismal view on modern society. The language is very fruity, as are much of the visuals in this down and dirty look at the worst aspects of modern society. Yeah, the art, it appears to be mostly digital art. I don't know if it's digital originally. It might be sketched out, inked, and then all done digitally, or I don't know. But anyway, it's full colour. It looks quite gritty and grungy, even though it's nice digital artwork. Strong black shadows and black lines really help to further that effect, and especially squiggly lines, not much straight lines here. And that really gives it that gritty kind of look. And it fits in with the whole beard thing. It's like it's all done with beard hair almost. Maybe that's just my personal fancy. Anyway, yes, not the happy joy stuff I normally feature. This is a great comic. It's done by Trinket Trance, and it's rated M, so read Beard. And that was our featured comic, very nicely introduced by our comedy comptroller, Baines. And now I'm going to introduce the featured music. And the music Gummallis has given this week is themed to the comic Silhouette Chronicles. It's somber yet intriguing and somehow invigorating. A lovely duet of cello and violin.
And it goes a little bit something like this.
featured music. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Gunn Wallace.
Hooray!
And quite a fun little tune that was, to a really cool comic that features a lot of silhouettes and clever artifacts. So thank you for that, Gunn Wallace.
Quite a funny gentleman in his own right.
Mainly because his eyeballs really don't match up. They're sort of on different levels. So yeah, he's a funny looking guy. Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, that's part of it. Yeah, exactly.
He can't help it.
Yeah, add it all together, yeah, he's a hilarious. It's a hilarious spectacle.
Spectacle. So you've done 3 of these comedy news posts so far. So how many more of these have you got to go?
I think I'll do one more, unless it's big enough. I haven't written it yet, but unless it's a big enough subject that it should be split into 2. Maybe 2. It's possibly 2.
A pentology.
Yeah, what I've done so far is what we'll talk about today is the comedic premise, and Ozone Ocean slurps his vodka.
Was there a microphone? Damn it.
And then the premise, and then I had a 2-part thing on creating comedic characters, which I think we actually talked about before.
Yeah.
This method, but it's a handy one. I've played around with it. I haven't created characters with it. But anyway, okay, so there's premise and then characters, and then I'm going to do another news post on plots, comedically oriented plots, like the plot structure, comedy style. And then I might have doing a comedic series. Might have some thoughts on that kind of structure.
Oh, yeah, that seems really interesting.
So, yeah, maybe 2 more. Yeah.
Useful in an ongoing series. How do you keep that up?
Exactly. In any genre. I mean, then maybe this geared to comedy. But, yeah, keeping a series going. Like, what's the hook that draws people in? Obviously, it's a laugh or comedy-oriented one in what we're talking about.
Things usually return to the same. There's plots and development, but not too much advancement. It sort of just returns in order to keep things going.
Maybe. It's more just like it's kind of more like, but anyway, that'll be like talking about story structure. Another day.
So, let's start off with the premise. Like a gorilla shopping for bananas.
Oh, and he's got a shopping cart full of bananas? I like that. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know where you get some of this stuff from. Yeah, it could be. But that does kind of illustrate the basic theory of what a comedic premise is. This is stolen from the book called The Comic Tool Chest. No, it's the Comic Toolkit or the Toolbox. I think I credit it as a different title, I think, in every post I made. I should look at the book, see what it's called.
Never the same title. You're hiding your sources.
Exactly. Exactly. Claiming to, give attribution, but not. No, it's the Comic Toolbox by John Vorhaus. Good book, a very useful tome. But anyway, he sort of lays out what are kind of the mechanics and the structure of the comedic premise. So this is the premise for a joke, for a story, for a character, or whatever. And so I said that the comedic premise is very much the same idea as a premise in any other genre. It's got the same elements, character, goals, themes, conflict, with obviously a comedic twist. So something is funny about it. One way to look at this is from John Vorhaus, is that a comedic premise has some kind of separation from reality. So it's reality meets the unreal or the unusual or the extremely exaggerated. The premise of a regular person in an irregular world, e.g. Back to the Future, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or Ghostbusters, or an irregular person in the regular world, a fish in water. No, that wouldn't be right. That's what you want. Anyway, an irregular person in the regular world, e.g. Mrs. Doubtfire, Hancock, Charlie Bartlett. Those were the only ones I could think of. I'm just reading this after several weeks. Yeah, those are the best ones I could think of with an odd character in a real world that was comedic. Or I said you could have like a more complicated, hard to define mix of those two types, like a movie like Big or The Big Lebowski or anything with big in the title. Probably apply it to that. Big Trouble. Yeah.
That would be
Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah. Anyway, so if you want to write comedy, instead of trying to come up with a funny premise from whole cloth saying, what's funny, which is a very difficult question, a way to break things down is to think of first a regular thing and mix it with an irregular thing. So some quick ones I thought of. Let me see what I thought of here. Going to a dinner party, normal, disguised as your opposite gender, unusual. Graduating high school as a robot.
All right.
I don't know what that might mean, but that's just to illustrate the two, normal and odd. Going fishing with an aggressively eccentric billionaire. Babysitting a Sasquatch, which if you're Canadian, that's not that unusual, but anywhere else it would be. Legally blind, but refuses to admit it. So this uses the principle of contrast, which I always talk about as one of the something I consider really important in any kind of writing or creation, in visuals too, obviously. So this is step one in thinking about the underlying structure in comedic premises or even other premises. Premisa. Okay, so that was it. That was the premise. The idea of premise, yeah.
So basically, it's the setup, really. It's the thing that creates the comedy. It can evolve from. We come up with that's what premise means. So we develop a seed where we can get comedy from. Won't necessarily be a great comedic idea itself. It's just something unusual that you can sort of inspire the funniness from, basically. Because Baby Sasquatch could be incredibly boring if you don't really
it's
water
true.
that seed and grow it properly. So yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, it's kind of what do you do with it? But I guess exactly. It's the underlying kind of structure. What does the whole thing turn on? Yeah. What's the idea that everything turns on, kind of thing.
Very starting point. And we've got some contributions from various people. I'm glad I didn't say what I was going to, because Gun Wallace has said it for us.
Gun Wallace says, legally blind, but refuses to admit it. I always did like Mr. Magoo.
Of course he does.
And I was just thinking as a theoretical, it didn't even occur to me that, it's Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, that's the old Mr. Magooism. He's known for it. He pioneered the whole idea.
They've made a whole classic cartoon series of cartoon shorts about that concept.
And a terrible movie with Leslie Nielsen.
I didn't see it, but it looked pretty terrible.
Leslie Nielsen is Mr. Magoo. Can you imagine anyone un-Mr. Magoo-like?
He does, he doesn't seem like a great choice. As funny as he was, he's more of a deadpan kind of guy, I guess.
Tall,
Frank Drebin was
Silver Fox sort of character too.
Yeah, he was. I loved him in that Mel Brooks Dracula thing, and obviously as Frank Drebin, he was great. And an Airplane was it Airplane? Was the beginning of his comedy career? Comedy was a second career. Yeah.
As a fighter pilot. Oh God, didn't he start out as he was in the Fantastic Planet or Fantastic? Oh, he was a sci-fi guy. He used to be in action things. Yeah.
Serious, and he was a serious actor. Yeah. Yes, but it's still interesting. Yeah, everyone knows Leslie Nielsen. I didn't even know him until Airplane. And even then, I wouldn't have remembered him without Naked Gun later.
Fantastic.
But he had a whole career as a dramatic actor.
Yeah.
Before that,
shocking, and he just moved into it so well.
Seamless, just perfect. Yeah, he had that great deadpan kind of thing.
Yeah, genius. It's what Ronald Reagan should have done instead of becoming a president.
I could say would have been great. Yeah,
it would have worked. You can see
those Naked Gun movies a little awkward to watch in hindsight because of a certain supporting actor. But
yeah, worse than Ronald Reagan too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very odd to see Bill Cosby as a supporting.
So next
why.
up we have Kim Luster, and she says, "Good stuff again. According to what I've read, laughter is the biological response when you realize you're okay, safe, after being shocked and frightened. Supposedly, all comedy on some level is disturbing because we're, as you say, facing something that isn't part of our normal, safe world. And laughter is a rush of facing danger and then realizing you're not in danger. Think peekaboo with babies. The sudden appearance of a face and a loud peekaboo scares them a bit, and then they realize they're safe and they cackle with glee."
Well, that's good. That's good stuff. Good point.
Interesting take on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very Ozone Ocean in her take. I should have read it as me.
You should have just said it was you. Yeah, just claimed it was.
I reveal myself to be Kim Luster after all this time. It was me. God's Strain is my work. I own up. No. Kim Luster is a fantastic author of the marvelous comic God's Strain, which you should already. And there is not much comedy in God's Strain.
No, and there's also not much left of the God's Strain. She's finishing up the story. It's a long continuous story. It's really good and fascinating, and she's kind of down to the climactic final act of it. So,
awesome!
Yeah,
and
definitely
then
a worth.
Moving on to a new.
Yeah, hopefully she jumps right into something new.
Yeah, perhaps you can write Bottomless Waitress for us.
There you go. Somebody has to. Somebody's got to step up. She'd probably do it well, actually.
I can't wait to see her dialogue.
So Bravo also tags up with quoting from the news post, "Doing anything ... with an aggressively eccentric millionaire describes dozens of Lucy shows, as well as any Gilligan's Island episode with Mr. Howell. Many of the Dean Martin roasts with Don Rickles are on you." Oh, yeah, I talked about Don Rickles. That just passed away when I wrote that. So, wrote this news post, so that's part of it too.
Green Acres, isn't that the show with about the eccentric millionaire, Zsa Zsa Gabor or someone, one of those sisters, Gabor sisters? You ever seen that show? An eccentric millionaire moves on a farm, and that's the whole premise of the thing.
It was called Keeping Up with the Gabors.
The Gabors. Yeah, the Gabor sisters, exactly.
Yes. I stole that joke from Letterman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, Scrooge McDuck, of course. That's the also classic take on the whole thing. And they've done it in various sitcoms, always, the idea of the eccentric millionaire, because you can get a lot of comedy out of that. Usually American shows, that's a thing in American sitcoms. Mr. Burns.
Right. Yes, exactly.
It's common in any American sitcom. There's usually an eccentric millionaire that pops in sometime just to screw things up, but not something that you get from other countries. Mainly an American thing.
I wonder why that is.
Ooh, yeah, we wonder. So,
that was a serious question. I don't know why that is. I don't know millionaires.
They're living it now.
Well, yes, like eccentric millionaires in office, yeah.
And it doesn't really work for comedy anymore.
Right.
It's not funny anymore. Right, enough social commentary. Ozone Ocean says, "Nice." That was my whole thing.
It's a very that's Baines type contribution to the discussion. reminds me of myself. Yeah. Tanserine says, "Comedy is one of the things that I just don't feel able to do on demand or on purpose. I'm told I make people laugh when in the spur of the moment, but I just can't get in that headspace to make comedy as art." That's drunken Tanserine.
Comedy as art. Oh, good old Tanserine. Yes, Tanserine was too drunk to be on this Quackcast, apparently.
We don't have to say that.
She was literally like...
It's not true. She's working on therapeutic methodologies for...
Exactly, self-medicating therapy. She's imbibing all that medicine, trying to get herself well. Good on you, Chance. Keep it up. Have fun on me. So next up we have CD Malcolm 1, or as I know him, Sitcom 1. So
yes.
He says, comedy, I can't do a voice. Comedy can be added to anything, I believe. I'm not a big comedy... Actually, I don't know what voice I'm doing. I'm just being...
It's all right.
I believe I'm not a big comedy writer, but I do find myself adding bits of comedy in the scripts or passages I write due to the moment of the character. I do agree with Bane's combos because I use them for situations or spur-of-the-moment reaction. Love the article. Bane. Oh, so he's...
Call me Bane.
Bane.
Yes.
Bane.
Yeah, I agree. You can get comedy can work in there. I think we might have talked about that at some point. Where comedy is an excellent little spice to add to a dark kind of story or storyline.
It's also something that you can come up with at the spur of the moment too. It can be hard to do comedy in advance, to write jokes, but then when you've got the things happening, the scene and everything there, it can be a lot easier to work out something funny of the moment.
Totally. Yeah. Because you base it on your particular characters and their reactions to whatever's going on.
Precisely. Yeah. And you can you can add emphasis to what's happening, or
for sure.
Yeah.
Nice snappy dialogue.
Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of thing. Funny lines that the super...
Is that how he... Yeah,
he
that's
just
a good
doesn't
example.
come up with them, but that is the way it works in those particular... not serious action films, but, those 80s style action films. Your action hero has a snappy, funny line that they have all the time.
Right.
It works but it wouldn't work out of context. It only works in context. Like, he throws a pipe through his villain. He goes, "Let off some steam, Bennett."
Exactly. Bennett! Wow! Look at this. Science. You're right on it. You remembered the name.
Oh, yeah. Not many
Pretty good.
Australians in Arnold Schwarzenegger films, so I have to remember.
Oh, right. Wow.
Australians in disgusting fishnet vests. All right, here we are. Bravo is again.
Bravo, think of any joke. It always begins with a premise. Horse walks into a bar. There's the premise, and it's a ridiculous. A horse and a bar. A rabbi, a pastor, and a Catholic priest are talking. Premise. 3 clerics are talking. The simplest stuff can be the hardest to understand because it's taken for granted, as opposed to being broken down for you. Yeah, it's kind of like all about breaking stuff down, like the big. That's what I like about this John Vorhaus guy and his book is he breaks things down into easier to figure out questions. Yeah. A realistic thing and an unrealistic thing, as opposed to just like what's funny, what's a funny idea, which is way harder to figure out.
Or theoretical kind of. He gives you examples of how it can work, which is important. You just can't talk about theoretical stuff because it's very hard to apply that.
Yeah, especially when it's very...
Premise with a premise,
Exactly, yeah. There was a set piece and a plot point.
And so what happens when a horse walks into a bar? What, bumps its head? Ha 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 ha.
Exactly. Anticlimax.
Anticlimax. So next up we have Paul.
I guess he hoofs the bill.
Hoofs
I don't
the
know.
bill? What the hell?
Is that an expression?
I don't. That's going over my head. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So we have Paul Eberhardt up next. Eberhardt, and he says,
Paul.
"Even this morning."
Oh my God! I'm sorry.
What
Go ahead.
did you do?
I hit my computer with my fist.
You thought a monster was coming out of it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Punched it down.
Thought I saw a tiger.
Even the
Scary.
incongruities can become dead funny if it is done right. For instance, I remember the old sketch where a typical tourist family in beach fair wander around a shabby 1960s high-rise quarter looking for a beach that clearly isn't anywhere near. While the narrator reads the passages from an ad for an idyllic holiday resort that strangely seem to fit the pictures in a way, even if they patently shouldn't. Okay, so it doesn't sound all that funny when I describe it. But trust me, it is. My point is, even ordinary people and an ordinary setting can make for great comedy, providing they don't match. Oh, thank you very much. Paul, also known as Rasputin. That's Paul's other identity. Are you okay, Baines?
I'm okay.
You're okay. Are you okay?
Yes, and Paul Eberhardt makes a good point.
Are you okay, Baines? Yes, he does. Yes. It's an interesting example. I think I could do a comedy comic on that theme very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Very easily. But I won't, because it takes me 10 years just to do a page of Pinky TA. So,
Oh man, I'm heading in that direction my own self.
That's why it's like the half-life of radioactive things. You know, it gets longer and longer as it gets more stable. It takes forever. You know, initially it's 3.2 milliseconds, and then when you're going from like radioactive steel to radioactive lead or something, I don't know, it takes forever. So yeah, that's there we are. Fantastic boring example. All right, we have Bravo again. Speaking of radioactive,
Probably the most famous users of incongruity was Monty Python. In fact, a new word was coined, Pythonesque, to describe their, at times, surrealistic incongruity. Like good old John Cleese anywhere behind a desk saying, "And now for something completely different."
Yes, which was a clunky segue they used to have. Python. So what do you describe something that looks like a python?
I don't know.
Python-like. We can't use Pythonesque in its proper word now. Proper context. Damn those Pythons. They've ruined it.
Yeah.
And Kim Lester loves all things Pythonesque because they're long and
sure.
phallic. So next up we have part 2. Creating comedy characters.
Yes, the 3 Ks.
Oh, God.
Or the 3 somethings.
Yes, let's stay away from that.
Okay.
Oh, thank God we're not Greek, because then it really would be K, because that's how they... No, it's C. C. Creating comedy characters.
Oh, that's right. The 4 Cs.
4 Cs. Yes, creating comedy characters. Exactly. And
silly.
I like your mascot character, which is the comic book guy. I think that's what he's called.
Yes, very, just a hysterical character.
Funniest character in the whole of the Simpsons.
Oh, he's one of them for sure.
Simpsons.
Yes.
I believe who is funnier than him?
Well, Homer is an all-time great character ever.
You're right, Homer. Homer's funnier than the comic book guy. Shot me down, Baines.
The comic book guy is just not just another Homer. He's funny in his own way, like that pompous, kind of, elitist, but like slovenly elitist. He's a brilliant character,
Because he's based on reality. Because you can see those characters in any gaming shop or comic shop. We used to be able to. Anyway, I don't know. I haven't been in one for ages, but remember, there used to be guys like that.
It's not what I heard. Oh.
There used to be guys like that everywhere, didn't there? I mean, that is real.
Oh yeah, and that attitude though is definitely it lives on because of internet trolls. Like they don't necessarily own comic book stores, but like that is the internet elitist. Writ large, if I can use the expression writ large.
Every YouTube commenter ever.
Yes.
It should all just be read in his voice. So, give us the gist.
Okay, the gist. So creating comedic characters. So this is the first two pieces of creating a comedic character, creating new characters from whole cloth. I've done it a bit using this method. Not any characters that I've used in my comic or anywhere else yet. I haven't gone the whole way with designing these characters, but it is a really fun way to create comedic characters and a way to analyze your characters. So, let's see. So using the same principle as the premise creation, we can craft endless numbers of comedic characters. So the first step, let me just give an overview of what this is. So we're going to be choosing a strong comedic perspective. So a point of view or an outlook on life from this character. The particular way they see the world. I'll explain it in more detail later. Second is exaggeration. So you take, things about them and exaggerate, in every, like as far as you can type thing. And then in the next part, we'll finish the characters by giving them flaws and then giving them good qualities as well. Those sort of our shading and highlights, if you will, to finish off the characters. Okay, so first we'll start with a strong comedic perspective. That's the character's way of seeing the world, like I said. For example, you can have a virtuous priest, a virginal high school student, a attention-seeking drunk, a human-looking robot, a con artist, compulsive gambler, a serial killer, they're always hilarious. We know that. Extreme workaholic or obsessive compulsive, like that type of thing. You sort of have a baseline of how this person sees the world.
Right. Okay.
The innocent or extremely innocent or naive type or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I have that right. Like these are the type of perspectives we're talking about. So the idea goes that from your endless list of possible comedic perspectives, the best ones will be the ones that are most removed from reality. So just like with the premise, if the perspective is really unusual, like say some kind of alien or extreme OCD person,
Okay.
or I said the almost otherworldly eccentricity of Kramer from Seinfeld. Like these would be your stronger perspectives if they're taken away from the norm as much as possible.
All right.
So that's that.
What do you mean by stronger perspectives?
Strong just means it's defined, and it also means like it's removed from average person.
Okay. All right.
So the innocent farm boy or the innocent farm girl.
Yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. The filthy stripper. I don't know why I said that. I love strippers. I married a stripper, for God's sake. What am I talking about? Okay, so that's your perspective. That's kind of your baseline, and you can build out from there, type thing.
Yeah.
The greedy penny, like the penny pinching greedy person, like Scrooge, or Scrooge McDuck.
Okay.
The extreme, like that kind of thing. The coward,
Yeah.
someone who's afraid of everything, type thing, like Hal from Malcolm in the Middle.
Right. Okay. So yeah, you've got your exaggerated. Exaggeration is your next point.
Is the next point. So we have our strong comedic perspective, and then you use exaggeration to make it extreme, make it very different. This kind of when I first read this, I'll be honest, it rubbed me the wrong way, kind of. I thought, this is just saying silliness, like extreme silliness is how you are funny. Like it has to be like Mork from Ork or some other modern reference that people will understand. But it's not necessarily like this exaggerated stuff is not necessarily about being showy or being loud or being anything. Like if someone's extremely cheap, that can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. It can still be.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like overly cartoonish or something like that. It's just a matter of take the person's, take the dim bulb and make them extreme, like Joey from Friends, from the show Friends. For several years was the funniest character on the show by far, when everyone was getting in their romantic things and everything.
Stuff. Homer from The Simpsons started out as just being an abusive dad and a bit dumb, but then became incredibly stupid as the show moved on and got dumber and dumber. So they exaggerated that to the extreme.
Yes, exactly. Remember the poker game that Homer was at the poker game, and someone one of his buddies made the gentle suggestion that he was slow. So it pans into Homer's, a close-up on Homer's head, and you hear Homer's thought saying, "What did he mean by that? See, what is he trying to say? Is he suggesting I'm slow? Me? Slow? How dare he?" And then it pans out, and everyone's gone, and it's the middle of the night, and it's Lenny's house, and Lenny comes out in his bathrobe. He's like, "Oh, Homer, are you still here?" It's just extremely exaggerated.
Oh, there you go. The
Hilarious
perfect
moment.
Example. Perfect.
Yeah. So Homer is definitely an extreme character. George Costanza, one of the other all-time greats to me, and you, I know.
Yes.
In terms of comedic characters. I would call his perspective maybe pettiness or selfishness. Maybe that's his worldview. Just short-sightedness or superficiality or something in that area. Maybe selfishness would be the one.
Which makes him actually the most lovable, but that's perhaps for another time.
He's honest about what he wants. You really see that on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David playing that character that was based on him. Now you see a lot of those same elements, and he's very likable because he actually is the only one who's telling the truth. Honest about himself, kind of thing.
I always found Larry David irritating for some reason.
Do you find George Costanza likable?
Yeah, I love George, but Larry David...
I love him too. He's a great character, but likable? I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's one of the last words I would use to describe that character.
I don't know. Maybe I just like the terrible people.
Exactly. Yeah, there is something in there. Yeah, I love him too. He's the best character. But I said exaggerating these characteristics, the pettiness and selfishness, superficiality, to the nth degree is what helps him become the brilliant comic character he is. I already mentioned Ebenezer Scrooge. So his greed is exaggerated to the,
Yeah, he's incredibly
greatest extent.
And it's based on the old Scottish penny pinching stereotype, of course. As well as his cousin or brother or some other rival who's also a Scottish penny pinching. But that's neither here nor there. Scrooge
and Bob Cratchit, Charlie Bucket from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory are exaggeratedly nice and exaggeratedly poor.
Oh yeah.
Also, we have the contrast coming into play there, but yeah.
Of course, the current American president, who is an extreme. They obviously written as an extreme character. No one could be like that in real life, of course. They went a bit over the top with that particular character.
Yeah, with his waving his arms around, and is it President Sanders? I didn't follow, but I just assumed that's probably the way it was supposed to go.
So we've got Jughead as well as not just apathetic to girls, but having a hearty appetite. He's an asexual food chomping machine. So he's
yes, my favorite comic character of all time, comic book character was Jughead. Yeah,
he's very much not apathetic. I can't think of the word, but yeah, he's above it all, and he
completely
yes.
Completely marches to his own drum. Yeah,
it's almost like an alien. Almost.
Yes. And I went on to talk about my characters here. Like, I didn't design my characters this way because I didn't know about this at the time, but I have looked at them through this lens, and definitely TK and Penelope are the two characters people like the most in my comic, from what anyone says. And they are two of the most exaggerated characters. You know, Penelope with her sort of innocence and ditziness and her strength, like physical strength. It's quite exaggerated. TK's cynicism and kind of contradictory, what's the word? Contrarian tendencies. Contrarianess. His cynicism and his sort of facility with a lie or with a quip or whatever is exaggerated quite a bit and make him quite unusual.
His ability to go to places that Oscar wouldn't, really. He takes things in directions that Oscar would not go.
Yeah, there's a contrast thing at play too. I think Oscar was a fairly exaggerated nice guy, quote unquote. Kind of somewhat I would say TK is more unflappable.
Yeah.
So he can go into a rage too, but yeah. Definitely. They do have their perspectives and their exaggerations.
They do.
What do you think about Pinky in your comic?
Well, I try and do that as a slightly more realistic character, so I don't really give her an extreme perspective most of the time. If I do, she can be very petty, very petty. That's where I will give her an extreme perspective. Like I think it was chapter 6, I sort of went a little bit comedic there, and I made her very petty and like a little martinet, So she's the boss of the group, and everything is she's very self-centered, and everything is to do with her. And if things aren't going right, then it's everyone else's fault, and it's not her fault, and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's extreme selfishness and pettiness.
She sounds like me.
Yes,
it's like listening to a mirror or something.
Listening to a mirror, I like it.
Yeah.
She's a
what about the bottomless waitress girls?
Oh, the bottomless. Well, of course, we have the Dits in Francis.
Yeah.
We should call it Francine. Just thought of that. Francis.
You can change
it. Is the Dits. Penelope. No, Penelope? Yeah, Penelope is like the red-headed, cynical.
Polly.
Polly, that's it. Polly, who has seen.
Okay, now I know it's been too long since I've written anything here. We don't know the characters' names anymore. Polly. I got to get on that.
Polly's seen it all. She's cynical.
Yeah.
Bit man-hating, maybe. I don't know. Probably very horny. All those kind of things. those characteristics of an older one. And then we have Francis. What's the other one's name?
Jane.
Jane, Jane, which is short for Plain Jane, basically. So Jane
Yes,
is
exactly.
a nice girl. Yeah, she is just completely the nice character who is incredibly in love with her boyfriend. So that's exaggerated extremely that she is just madly in love with her stupid boyfriend, who we still haven't seen in the comic yet.
That's right. That's true.
With Craig,
Maybe this year. Maybe this year.
Craig, which is the nice guy at the moment.
Yeah.
And who gets very flustered around the ladies, very nervous and red-cheeked. So, yeah, we have all the fantastic, great little exaggerated stereotypes there, don't we, so far? Oh, and we also have Wilfred as well. Wilf, I think his name.
Oh, yes, Wilf, who's going to be some kind of genius, some kind of socially awkward type.
Exactly. He is the genius who is, again, flustered around the pretty ladies and who has a crush on one particular pretty lady.
That's right.
Who is so ditzy that she does not have any idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's our main. I think in Pinky Tea, I've also tried to have a stab at other comedic characters, like with Betty. She's this big girl who's had a bit of a role in PTA 6 and also in the latest chapter. Big Betty and Colin, who was featured in PTA 6 as well and has had a comeback. And Betty and him are sort of like skivers. You know, they're like hardworking technician types, but they like to, get off the job when they can and be lazy and
right,
all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I like those characters. They can.
Me too. Those characters are so much fun.
Yeah, they can be
fun to see them. Yeah.
So that is our comedy premise. Have we had any comments on this one? Oh, not really.
Nah, just a couple, yeah. So we can move on and finish up these characters. Like now that we have our strong perspectives, our exaggeration, we can talk about flaws, which everyone knows that characters need to have flaws. In the philosophy of Jason Voorhees' book.
That's what I always think when you say that name.
Yeah.
just picturing this guy in a hockey mask and
a type like two-fingered typing.
Yeah. Ooh, two-fist typing.
Tilting his head all the time. Yeah. So that flaws often, when we talk about those, we often say like flaws are what make a character like believable or relatable. In this theory, flaws are sort of the engine by which actual comedy is created, like that allows us to laugh at characters by giving us distance from them. Us as an audience get some distance because these characters have these flaws that allow us to kind of look down on them and laugh at them.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the theory. I don't know who knows if that's the case, but it does make some sense. And also that flaws, like the expression of flaws in a character, in a story, is the engine of comedy. Character-based comedy, definitely. Clumsiness, selfishness, pettiness, greediness, lustiness, compulsive gambling. It's these, like the exercise of those things that is the whole driver of the humor
of character-based comedy or of comedic characters.
Of comedic moments, right. in any sense, either one really.
Yeah, because they're not just saying jokes; they're actually being funny in them themselves. Like, say, Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
His illiteracy and
his innocence and disgustingness. Those are exaggerated and they're funny, and he's got flaws. Yeah, being disgusting, being incredibly crafty like a rat. He's very rat-like.
Yes.
which they play up a lot.
Probably because he's up there catching rats all the time in the attic of the bar. Yeah.
He's taken that on as his role, his personality.
Or like Dennis and his extreme arrogance kind of thing.
His sexual predator arrogance.
Yeah, exactly. The sexual predator. We're able to laugh at that. Really makes me happy.
That is the funniest bloody character ever.
Haughtiness, that's can be very funny in the right setting, like the haughty character.
He is a hottie and he is haughty. So.
Right. The two different spellings, I guess. It's true.
It's both of those things. The flaws. George Costanza, you mentioned again. Did you talk about that?
Yep. George Costanza, once again, just a stew of so many flaws. The superficiality, the flakiness, the sort of id-like impulsiveness, and all that good stuff. The anger,
Yeah, he has and he takes that on from his parents. They also gave that same character trait to his mum and his dad, who are incredibly.
They're nuts. Yeah, crazy.
And he's good. And one of my favorite characters, done by the same actor, Jason Alexander, was Duckman.
Right, yeah.
He had exactly the same character traits. But even exaggerated even more, because now
I would say he's a more vicious character.
Yeah, far more vicious, far more venal, jealous, evil, but still lovable and funny. And like Baines says in the thing, humanity is like the thing where you reel it back a bit, you make the characters more human or likable as a way of...
They're basically likable qualities.
Yeah.
Universality, quote unquote, although not everyone is going to have these qualities, but it's something, in this theory, this is what helps us relate to these characters and care about them. It's like they are like us. They're not like us, but they are like us.
You can make the characters too evil, and then they won't be funny anymore. Then you'll just want to see them fail, and you won't care about them. You won't identify.
You won't tune in to see what they're doing. Yeah,
that's it. So with Duckman, he was always just so evil and so bad, but then they reeled it back a bit by making him care about his son Ajax, or twins, or his sister-in-law Bernice. Fix it up like that. So, and with George, I can't remember what they did to make George likable. But
he kind of wants what we all want, maybe.
There you are. That's it precisely.
Sort of,
Yeah. And also he's likable in contrast to Jerry. See, Jerry is meant to be likable, but Jerry is too much of a smartass, and that makes him unlikable. So you like George instead because he's more human and more relatable. Elaine as well, she's too much of a smartass. She doesn't have as many failings. Kramer's too alien, so you can like him a bit, but then you realize that, hang on, this guy's just off this planet. There's nothing really relatable about this guy at all. But George, even though there wasn't anything nice about him, you liked him because he was more human than the other ones. He has the same failing as the rest of us, whereas Jerry and Elaine just fail in spite of themselves, not really because they're flawed characters. Well, I mean, they were flawed, but they usually won all the time, more than George did.
Yes.
When George won, you rooted for him because it was so unusual for George ever to win anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
So that's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, maybe that was it, that he was likable in contrast to the ones who were meant to be more likable.
Yeah.
In fact,
that could be. That makes sense, actually. Yeah. Okay. You won me over with that. George is likable for those human qualities.
Yeah.
Funny, and he, and just vulnerable, I guess, loser.
Being a loser.
But in this, being a loser, but that wouldn't necessarily fit in with this. That would be considered a flaw. Qualities of humanity or likable qualities would be things like, they're honest or intelligent, funny, or I guess funny. No, we can't say funny. We're talking about how to be funny.
What makes it funny? Being funny.
Exactly. That's an endless loop. So honest, attractive, kind, they're loyal. So those are the kind of qualities generally that you pepper in there.
Being a loser can be likable if it has pathos. Charlie Chaplin's The Tramp character is a loser, but he's likable because the character has pathos. So that is a likable quality.
What is pathos?
You sympathize with the character.
But that's you're saying that he's likable because he's likable.
No. Pathos, it's you sympathize with them because you care about them.
But that's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's hard to express, but say, like a dog. You look at a dog, and it looks back at you, looks up at you, and it has those little eyes.
Yes.
Those lovable little eyes. That's what pathos is. That expression that a dog has.
Right.
The floppy little ears. That's pathos.
He's got the cuteness or the soulful expression or something like that. Those would be qualities.
Yeah, but it's
right.
not only that. It's those qualities
draw you
in relation to something. So the dog has pissed all over itself, or pissed all over the carpet, and you look down at the dog and you think, "You damn!" And you look at that face, and you think, "Oh, your heart breaks for it." So there you go.
I see what you're saying.
Expression of pathos.
Last time my brother visited, he said like his guilty pleasure, if you will, is watching videos of guilty dogs. It's like a whole series on YouTube of guilty dogs. It's like compulsively watchable.
It is. They have that innocent, they have such a human expression.
Yeah.
So guilty and vulnerable. And that's... I mean, George doesn't ever do that, but that feeling you get, Anyway, look it up, people.
It's true.
Pathos.
It's true. It works. It works.
Right.
I think that's fairly clear. And hopefully people can, I don't know if it is, but I think it might be.
Yeah. This is how you create good comedy characters, or at least it's a good jumping off point anyway. This is all the
absolutely,
bones of how you do it. All right.
Yeah. And exaggeration, by the way, can be used in all of these, not just exaggerating their perspective, but exaggerating their flaws, exaggerating their humanity qualities.
Yeah.
The nice guy is not just, patient. He or she is like got unearthly patience. Like they let themselves be walked over constantly by everyone for no reason,
Yes, and that can become a flaw.
And
you could blend this stuff in.
Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah, exactly. Like the exaggeration can turn that good quality into a flaw. Yeah, it's a good point.
I think that's what they did with the characters in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So you have these characters with their character traits, and the flaws are also their the good points. It changes because Charlie's innocence is it's a nice point about him. He's innocent, so you relate to him. But does the innocence become a bad thing? Because the innocence comes from stupidity, and his so that can become a bad point as well. So you can morph these things into other things, which is it's interesting. It can give you further jumping off points, can't it? You don't have to go okay. I'm going to mix in this and then this and then this and, do something. You can just have one thing and work with all the variations of it. Ta-da.
It's true. Yeah, that's really good.
All
Stuff.
right. Coming from Ozone
All
Ocean,
right.
who's just the master of comedy. I do comedy comics all over, so yeah.
I think you know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, and you should read all these things. I'll have all these news posts linked, so you can read out the instructions of how to do good comedy in Bane's news post, and there will be at least another 2. So there you are.
There you are. We can all look forward to that.
At least another 15 Banes. Can I pin you down? Like, for another year's worth of...
Part 31 in a 75-part series.
Excellent. I cannot wait for that one.
Excellent. A couple more years. We're there.
Right. This has been Quackcast 322, and we've been the Quackcasters, Banes and Ozone Ocean.
Bye.